Husband bragged about cutting off his married friend who was cheating while calling his other friend weak, but I found out he was still secretly talking to the cheater and lying about it. The Black Hat. I, 25F, have been married to my husband, 26M, for 3 years. He has 2 male friends from a job he used to work who are both also married. Let's call them Holden and Cameron. He has been friends with them for around 2 years, and since then, we have all moved to different states. These are friends that he has had over for beers here and there, but mainly they like to call, text, and play video games on some weekends. I personally do not like Cameron. This is because he isn't respectful of his wife. They all used to have a female coworker that Cameron would constantly hit on and try to ask out. He would tell my husband how much he wanted to sleep with her despite him having a wife and daughter at home. I told my husband he should let the wife know, but neither of us had her contact information as we have never met her in person. When he moved to a different state, his wife stayed behind since it was only going to be a training for a few months, and that's when things got worse with him. Cameron had informed both my husband and Holden that he had told his wife he wanted his divorce and did not want to have any custody of his child. This turned out not to be true, as his wife had no idea he was planning on leaving her, and instead, he had been ghosting his wife, not responding to any calls or texts for weeks. I was not shy about my dislike for Cameron and did tell my husband that he was no longer welcome in my home and that I was no longer comfortable with them hanging out together, which my husband was just fine with, since they really didn't hang out much to begin with. They would still occasionally play games online together and text on a group chat that a lot of their old coworkers still had. Holden had also told us that Cameron had gotten on dating apps and began sleeping around with multiple women. He even went as far as to send Holden a video of him having a threesome. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Holden felt disgusted that he was sent this video without consent, and his wife was livid, understandably so. After this, Holden decided to drop Cameron and go no contact, no confrontation or anything, ghosting him like Cameron was doing to his wife. Yesterday, I had asked my husband if he was still talking to Cameron, and he informed me that he was not. He went on and on about how Cameron hadn't even reached out to him because he made himself clear about how he was not okay with what Cameron was doing to his marriage and all the hell he was putting his wife through. He said he had more of a spine than Holden did, since Holden wouldn't even inform Cameron that they were no longer friends. Today, my husband gets a call from Cameron. The call was nothing important in particular, but what really threw me was how Cameron was not acting like anything was different between my husband and him. He mentioned that Holden hasn't spoken to him in 2 weeks, and then the call pretty much ended there. I then asked my husband if him and Cameron still talked, and he admitted that they still do here and there. I felt hurt. To be clear, I did not care if my husband was talking to Cameron. I wasn't the biggest fan of the idea, but he is an adult, and as long as he wasn't hanging out with him, that was good by me. However, the fact that he put on a big show about how he was more of a man than Holden because he stood on business when Holden wasn't willing to, and that Cameron felt too embarrassed to even reach out to my husband because he knows my husband's standards, only to actually be talking to him and not ever telling Cameron that he has issues with what he is doing in his marriage. It felt like such a sham. I got upset and told him he was all bark and no bite, and that at least Holden actually stood on business because he at least followed through with what he said he was going to do, and that for this, I respected Holden more than him. This really upset my husband. He said he didn't like that. I insinuated that he wasn't a man of honor and that he felt emasculated with that statement. He told me that if I respect Holden so much that I should go and Holden then, which is not something my husband has ever said to me. It really hurt that it went there. I think I may have been too harsh with what I said, but I don't appreciate being lied to or being talked to like that. He is still hurt by the statement that I made, and now I don't know what to do. I don't like feeling like my husband is condoning this behavior from his friend. But what really bothers me is him trying to make himself look good and putting down his other friend when he wasn't telling the truth about the situation. So, what do I do from here? An Ada update. Thank you everyone for all the comments and feedback on my last post. It was quite overwhelming, so I did not respond to most, but I did read every comment to answer some questions and things I saw in the comments. Holden and Cameron were friends with each other for a few years before my husband met either of them. Holden was the closest with Cameron, and my husband was closer to Holden than he was to Cameron. I have only met Cameron twice, both briefly when he came over to our house for some beers and video games. My husband has never hung out with him outside of work besides that, and when they would go to work out at the gym that their work had, neither my husband or I had Cameron's wife's information. I did try to find her on multiple social media platforms, but her name is very common, and since I have never seen her before, it was hard to locate her. My husband does not have any social media besides YouTube. I do want to preface that I never told my husband that I did not want him texting Cameron. Was I a fan of the idea? Number? But he is an adult and free to make his own choices, and so I never even had asked him to. I did, however, say that Cameron was no longer welcome in my home. My husband saw no issue with this and agreed. This is something that is not really a factor for us anymore anyways, since we have moved away, so they never see each other in person and haven't for months. My issue was the fact that he had lied to me about not talking to Cameron and went to bash his other friend when there wasn't any truth behind that, not the fact that he was messaging Cameron. Now for the update. My husband and I did sit down and talk with each other earlier today, and while I feel like we both have a bit more we need to discuss and work on, I feel like we are making a good start with things. I apologize for comparing him to Holden and for not being mature in how I discussed my anger. I also apologize for saying I respected his friend more than him in the moment, because I really do have a lot of respect for my husband and always have thought highly of him. I am not someone who likes to discuss things when my emotions are high and it got the better of me. It is something I'm going to be a lot more conscious of from here on out and really try to work on. He apologized for making things seem one way when that wasn't really the truth. He did say that he had told Cameron that he did not like hearing about all of his escapades trying to live a single life while still married, and that Cameron had stopped messaging him about that specifically, but he did admit that he never went further than that, such as telling him that he wasn't wanting to have a friendship game with him, etc., and that they were still occasionally messaging about other things. He also apologized for the goof Holden comment and said that he did feel emasculated because he has been struggling because he thinks his testosterone levels are lower than he wants them to be. Both his dad and brother have low testosterone. He said he has been wrestling with the idea that he has low T for months now and how he feels like he is less of a man because of it. For some context there, he fits all the symptoms for it. Our sex life has been a lot less than it used to be. He is tired all the time. He has been pretty irritable, etc. I told him that there was nothing to be embarrassed about, how it doesn't make him less of a man, and to go speak to a doctor to try and talk through it and figure out a route to take, and I will support him. I did say that while I want to be there for him, and that I do think he is a man, that doesn't excuse the comment that he made, how it's not okay to speak to his wife that way. And if he wants to feel like a man, he does also need to act like a man and be honest in all aspects of his life, both with me and his friendships. He did give me his phone and let me look through their past conversations because I mentioned I felt weird about the threesome video. Their messages were pretty dry, mainly talking about music and old coworkers. But while I did not find that video anywhere, I did find a group chat with the three of them from about a month ago where Cameron had sent Holden and my husband some partially nude pictures of a trans woman he was seeing. This upset me. I found it really disturbing and disrespectful that Cameron had sent this to them and that neither Holden or my husband said anything. They just carried on with the conversation like nothing had happened. When I confronted my husband on this, he just said he ignored the photo and they moved on. This is something I am still kind of struggling with. Do men send their friends, especially married friends, nudes or videos of women they are seeing? I don't like that I felt brushed off when I addressed that to him, but I am so tired of feeling crazy. I don't like to look through his phone or feel like I am obsessing over his friendships. That has never been who I am, and I feel like I am turning into someone who is and who overthinks and is honestly crazy. I may update if anything else comes of this. I hope that we can work through things more and find a resolution one way or another. Thank you guys for reading this again, and especially thank you to everyone who was kind in the comments. I appreciate it more than you know. Next story. Parents always favored my eldest brother and gave him everything. So my other brother finally cut them off completely, and now my mom cries every day, but still won't accept it's her fault. I come from a Middle Eastern country. My parents have 3 sons and 1 daughter, while I am the youngest, 32M. My eldest brother, John, 50M, is by far the favorite child by my mother. My father doesn't express opinions often. When John was born, he had many health problems. So my mom practically lived with him in the hospital for the first year. Every time we talk about something, the topic changes to John. I can tell them that I have problems at work. Oh, John just solved his problems with his boss. Taking advice from him when talking to him. Nothing of the sort happened. My mom expedited a meeting he had with his boss. It might be in my head, But I even have the feeling that she sometimes addresses my GF Joanna as Jana. John can treat our parents however he wants, yet they magically forget it after 2 days. When I was in collage, my mom called me crying with enough urgency to ask me to leave class to take her call. Apparently, John was very mean to her. The day after, my mom gaslit me, saying it was nothing. Needless to say, there is never an apology from John except for my sister Mary, 40F, who holds a government position, and my parents who are too old. All the siblings moved to different countries. John to Europe, James to Canada, and me to Australia. My parents visit John in Europe about 3 times a year for 2 to 3 weeks a time at his country. They spend more time with Jay's family than with my sisters. They visited me or the second eldest, James, once. James moved to Canada about 6 years ago. My mother had a lot of problems with James and Mary, ended up in couples therapy with both. Both times, my mom claimed that their respective spouse is taking her child away from her and whispering mean things to them about her, etc., etc. While Mary had more emotional problems, Mom doesn't love her as much as John. Mom doesn't care about her children. Mom keeps on alienating her spouse. James's problems were very monetary. He claimed that the parents gave him less money than to James, as well as babysit his kids less. As the last one to leave the nest, I had some more knowledge about my parents' finances, and I can say that except for one incident which I will address later. My parents gave about $250K to John, about $300K to James, about $100K to Mary, and about $50K for me. I went back to grad school and did not get married yet, so I did not need much. In about 2010, my parents received a plot of land near their house and told all the children that if they wish to have it, they can if they agree to the following rules. A. The building of the plot will be led and mainly financed by the child. B. The child will live in said plot and help take care of the parents who are growing old and in increasing need of aid. Mary, who held a government position on the other side of the country, and me, who only finished high school, were out of the picture, and James and John could not decide. James insisted that due to the high value of the land, it needs to be sold and split between the siblings. While my parents said that it's a no-go, after 2 years of debating, John picked up the glove and built the house. Later living in it for about 4 years before leaving the country due to work relocation, not by choice. But this is another story James felt and still feel robbed. The main incident happened half a year ago. My parents, who are still in need of aid, decided to buy a house in Europe next to John, claiming this is an investment for the future. When we will pass on this house will be passed to you up while I live, and plan on settling in Australia, which is in fact very far from Europe. When James heard about it, he blocked my parents. And a month ago, after he calmed down, he told me that he decided to cut ties with my parents, that he felt second best at most, that he couldn't shake the feeling that this animosity towards his wife continued for so long, and he is afraid to have the same treatment to his kids. He is also in therapy. My mother, on the other hand, is crying nonstop about reaching out to him, about trying to go back in touch, about seeing her grandkids. She asks about him every day, and I don't know how to break it to her. The worst thing, she does not accept blame or guilt. She constantly gaslights things about everything being his fault, etc. And now I'm stuck in the middle of this charade, and she acts as if trying to change her in her old age is some sort of a crime. How can I tell her? Look, his life are better now without you. It is your fault, and he cut you off knowingly. If you ever will be given a second chance, you will need to earn it. How can I convey the situation to my mom? Do you have any advice regarding solving this? Thank you in advance. Update, the 25th of June, 2025. Thank you for your input and comments, though I did not reply. I did read them all. Cutting ties with my parents is not an option for me, nor is it something I intend on doing. I wanted to give a little update. I have decided not to take any drastic measures and simply dismiss any time my parents try to probe with the next time. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see, etc. Recently, as you might be surprised, the Middle East kept trying to off each other, and I felt like this was the first time James tried to probe about the family. They are all safe, thankfully. My mom keeps writing letters to James and sending it via email. In these, she tries to guilt trip him into sending her information, such as pictures of his kids, etc., with wishes for him to soften his stone heart. And every time I hear about this, I am pissed time and time again. She keeps them all about herself, and there is so little, if any, care for him, how he is doing, And what happened between them? After the last time she sent me one, I was pissed out loud and told her off, saying that if she keeps sending it to him, he will block her email as well. Something his friend slipped out. He does read them at least until 6 months ago. And she asked me, well, what letter would help? Can you show me? I immediately thought this might be a golden opportunity to let her see herself from the outside and might be the only one in sight. So I agreed with one condition, that she would never send it. If she decides that she likes it, she would have to write something herself in her own words and her own interpretation. She was pissed. How dare I claim she might do such a thing? Such blatant plagiarism, etc., etc. She might have said more, but I could care less, lol. And it's not as if she would do such a thing, would she? So, after working with a friend who is married to a Skyrim character, we wrote the letter. James, the first, wanted to apologize for everything. The image of our conversations hurting you for all these years is so painful. In addition to the idea that you feel the need to protect yourself from us, your own parents, I cannot undo what has been done up to now. But I can apologize, try to change, and maybe slowly we might be able to heal what is broken. Yet, I cannot do it without your help. I know our actions made you feel unequal, that John is the priority, and I am so sorry for that. We have no such will or feeling, and I apologize that our action caused you to feel like that. We have a very difficult time being disconnected from you, your kids, your wife. In addition, I would like to apologize to your wife. Her addition to our lives included you drifting apart from us, and a lot of this frustration ended up against her with no fault of her own. And for this, we are sorry. As for only thanks to her, we received our wonderful grandkids, for which we can only be thankful. I daily think about A, B, and C grandkids' names and wholeheartedly wish to have some sort of relationship with them. Next year, Op's wedding will take place where we are going to meet. I would like to meet you there in a positive manner so as to allow up the peace in his special day. He does not deserve that our situation will darken one of his most important days of his life, especially with the current situation in our country. This day is not ours. It is his, and we need to make sure he is the center of this occasion. We need to make this day work not only for him, but for us as well. Yes, this paragraph is egocentric AF by me, but I wanted to make sure that A, she is well aware about this. B, I will not tolerate any shenanigans in my wedding FFS. And if I am the one writing, then might as well. I don't wish to go back to our previous relationship. I wish to recreate and reconstruct a new one in which I can assure you your importance to me in a way that will be acceptable for both sides in a constructive, enriching manner, and would love your help rebuilding it. Love, Mom. After writing it, I kept it to myself until my mother will raise this topic again, which took about a month. As we were talking about it, I reminded her of my one rule, to which she responded, yeah, we already talked about it, and I sent it to her. After reading it, she told me I'm a wonderful son and she is happy to have me. She said that she has read it and understands, and now understands my position about this better. Of course, I didn't tell her I'm not the only one who wrote it, but I let her think whatever she wants. She said she agrees with everything but the paragraph about his wife, which she will continue to hate because of. I checked out in this part. I know about all the incidents. None are only the fault of the wife, and other than that part, she agrees and thinks about erasing it and sending it as is to him. I was pissed and lost it at her. Literally one condition, and she pisses all over it. I told her that if she does anything of sort, she could kiss my help goodbye from now on, and I was much less nice. She backtracked and said she was kidding. We both know she was not, and I told her to watch out. She started going to a shrink once again. She tried before and stopped after 3 times the most. My guess is that she couldn't stand the mirror and preferred closing her eyes for it, but this time she will be persistent. It lasted 4 times. She wrote another letter about a month after more of the same previous guilt trips. Took absolutely nothing from my letter, for better or for worse. When I told her to look at the differences and see for herself, yours was ingratiating while mine was not. And with this, my hope was lost. And with this, I'm going back to my previous bubblehead mode and stonewalling every time they talk about him. The memorial for my hope with this subject will be held at the next Milwaukee Brewers game. Bring beers. Regarding myself, we sent the papers and are now officially husband and wife. I am the luckiest man alive. The ceremony will only take place next year, and I have already instructed my friends to block any chance of mischief from my mom. Thank you for all your help.